Major significant changes in the retail industry are occurring at the moment. Now, it hasn't fully rolled out. It's in the process of. Targets are almost disappearing. The Target chain, the very famous Target chain, and effectively either closing down or, in the main, being replaced by Kmart. Now, they're owned by the same company. And the company has decided that it shouldn't be basically operating both in the one market. When we talk retail, we talk to the guru, Barry Urquhart from Marketing Focus. I know Target has actually struggled for years. Is that the reason? Is it basic? Does it come down to dollars and cents that the owners have decided to make a change?
Look, it's the ebb and flows. When Target was an independent operator operating out of Geelong, it had a fair measure of freedom under the Coles-Myer Group. They were clearly number one in discount department stores, but then it was taken over by Wesfarmers, and Wesfarmers have kind of remodeled everything like that type of situation. Now, apart from, Target is symptomatic of what the category discount department stores has, and that's a lack of identity and a lack of definition. It's very hard today to differentiate Myer from Kmart, Big W and Target. Then you go down to the bottom end and say, well, how different is Harris Scarfe and Dimmies, and are they still around? Are they surviving? And if we're going to talk about discount department stores, do we now include Red Dot? There seems to be a fair measure of confusion, if not in the industry, certainly into the minds of the consuming public.
Was part of the problem with Target that it crossed over with Kmart and owned by the same company, that there was too much in common?
Well, yes, and let's talk the core reasons for that. When you've got a discount department store like Target, and this is one of the major contributing reasons of why it underperformed, why it lost its productivity, its margins and its profit, was that it had more than 50,000, what they call in the industry, SKUs, stock keeping units, or different, 50,000 different products, brands, sizes, models, and that type of situation. Now, that is a huge range. When the average typical full-service supermarket of, say, Coles or Woolworths has no more than 35,000, you can see that all of a sudden there were simply too many products to not overlap with Kmart, and therefore it was some same old. Then, of course, you had in 2001, Aldi came in, started to actually put on market acceptance from the consuming public of household brands. Therefore, Kmart, Big W and Target all went into China, all started to develop their own brands, but they weren't recognised. They hadn't been brought up with brands consumers saying, that's the brand that I've always consumed. So there was even a lack of loyalty, recognition, and indeed a compelling magnet in any of those sort of product ranges that were available in the three respective discount department stores.
Will there be, though, and you mentioned how it was thousands and thousands of product lines, will there be products that will now slip out of the market? Now, I'll use my wife as an example. She shops at both Kmart and Target and has in the past, but she's found particularly in the area of clothing for our children, she went to Target because there was particular lines that she liked that were very good value, where Kmart's lines were different. Is there the risk that they'll actually now miss some opportunity, the company?
No, I think they're going to consolidate it, and they're going to come back to a very key point. One of the keynote addresses that I give at conferences around the world is that it is better to be different than it is to be better. In short, what are you? What could you? What should you? Indeed, what must you be famous for? And you've already identified that Kmart was very much into toys. So that when World for Kids came in, Big W and Kmart really took them on, and they really forced out Toys R Us out of the marketplace. Target was always children's clothing, household clothing for the women and that type of situation. Now, what I think they're going to do is they're going to consolidate that sort of wide product range of something like 45,000 plus, even with Kmart, narrow it down, bring it down closer to 30 rather than the 50,000 of Target, and say now what we need to do is to identify who it is as the consuming public, because not only must we differentiate Kmart and Big W, we've now got to say that we've got to move away from Coles and Myer, because it is very conceivable you're talking about two companies with two brands under the one umbrella ownership of Wesfarmers. You've got David Jones being owned by Woolworths, ironically enough, of South African vintage, and then you got the independently listed Myer, it is very conceivable that the about 108 department stores in Australia will be reduced to less than 80, and the big proposition being put out by commentators and analysts is that it might be actually financially attractive for the two of them to merge and to develop into one single brand.
And that'd be interesting. Just lastly, Barry, the online revolution, we know that throughout the course of COVID, online shopping has absolutely boomed. Has that played a role, do you think, in their decision to effectively merge Target and Kmart, or Kmart to take over?
I think it highlighted the fact that the big guys, and I will include Bunnings in this. Gee, I remember about 15 months ago, Clinton, you and I were talking about Bunnings, where you couldn't even actually interact in any way, shape or form to make a purchase, delivery or anything on the website with Bunnings. It was a very inert, presence of websites. Now you can buy, you can organise home deliveries and that type of situation. I think that the online phenomena actually highlighted the fact that our department stores, and more particularly our discount department stores, were laggards. They were dragging their feet. Just 18 months ago, there was probably less than 5% of their total sales were actually online. The latest figures show that David Jones, 20% of their sales are now online, and that's right up the front with, say, John Lewis out of Great Britain, which is arguably the best department store group in the world. They're saying 1/5 of our sales will now be online. And so I think you're going to see an acceleration of that phenomena, but your point is very validly made that because they were laggards, they were therefore vulnerable, and there was a huge leakage, not so much, interestingly enough, out of their competitors directly, but out of Amazon, eBay, Target, and stores overseas, rather than the local Australian domestic marketplace.
Hopefully the bottom line is customers will still be able to get what they want and what they need. Always good to talk to you, Barry. We'll talk again soon.
Looking forward to it, Clinton.
Retail expert Barry Urquhart from Marketing Focus.